Welcome to the show, ladies and gentlemen. Hello, good evening. This is Zai, the money guy.
One of the best ways for directors
Oh
to
no,
understand.
there's a commercial. That did not work out. Welcome to the show. It is Sunday Night Live. I'm Zai, the money guy. I am filming indeed in front of a live audience, as you can hear. Thank you very much. Welcome to the show, everybody. Hope you're having a good night. This is Zai, money guy. We are live. It is Sunday, December Sunday, December 13th. This is episode 3 of The Money Show. We're going to talk money. Thank you for joining. I hope you're having a wonderful night. Hello and welcome to the show. In the next 30 to 40 minutes, we're going to talk about money, how money affects you, how you handle money, how good you are with it. And we're going to have some fun. I'm going to entertain you for the next 30 to 40 minutes. Thank you so much for joining. Hockey Beast 140. I'm doing just fine. Thank you so much. Hockey Beast, I actually have a show for you. And before I start, I will mention that this episode is brought to you by Jones Soda. Jones Soda, and this is a delicious soda. It's made of cane sugar soda. And I haven't had one of these in ages, and they are delicious. I'm not sure if anyone else has had a soda by Jones Soda, but this episode is sponsored and brought to you by Jones Soda. Not really, but I'm going to pretend, okay? I recommend you go and grab them. They're delicious. So let me talk a little bit about who I am. So again, my name is Zai, and I'm the money guy. I'm not an expert per se in finance. I don't have a finance degree. I'm not a CMA or a CPA or a CGA. I don't have a fancy certificate, but I consider myself an expert in my finances. So a few things about me. I live below my means. I have a pretty good emergency fund. I have little to zero credit card debt. I track all my transactions and I use a piece of software called You Need a Budget or YNAB. And there is a link to YNAB in my profile if you want to check it out. It is phenomenal. It's taught me how to budget. It's one of the reasons why I actually started my account and why I'm live here with you tonight. I guarantee you we're going to have some fun. We're going to go to the first segment of my show. So if you're just joining, I am filming in front of a live studio audience. Thank you so much. And I do want audience participation, okay? We're gonna go to the first segment of the program, and it is called In the News. And this is, again, episode 3 of Sunday Night Live with Zai. If you're joining, you're making history as you're one of the first people to join. I highly appreciate that. But let's have a discussion, okay? So in the news, I'm going to take a look at 2 articles today. So the first one comes out of the Huffington Post. So I am out of Canada, so this is huffingtonpost.ca. And here's the article. Basic income could add $80 billion a year to the Canadian economy and create up to 600,000 jobs. So basic income. So I know Americans call that universal basic income, right? But this idea of a basic income is, I think, gaining a little bit of popularity recently, especially with everything that's going on with COVID. So I want to ask you, what do you think of a basic income? Is it something that Canadians and Americans should consider? Do you know what a basic income is? So a basic income is essentially the government guaranteeing at least a minimum amount of money per month for every individual in the country. There is 2 different formats, and I'll talk about the 2 different formats of basic income in a little bit. Hockey Beast says no to basic income. Okay, that's interesting. And I do understand that right now it's not entirely popular. I think in this report it said that 20% of people are in favor of it, while 80% are not. I think there are some interesting points in the article, and I want to share them with you guys. So, and by the way, I'm not advocating for basic income. I'll give you my take, obviously, but according to the Canadian Centre for Economic Analysis, CANCIA, the basic income could put 2.3 million people above the federal poverty line. Oh, you don't know what it is. Okay, let me explain to you what basic income is. So, basic income essentially guarantees that every month, every Canadian or American, I'm not sure where Hockey Beast is from. Let me just take a look. Can't tell where you're from if you're from Canada or America, but wherever you're from, the government is going to send a check to you monthly. There's different formats on how they might send that check, but essentially you would be guaranteed, all right, my man, you are Canadian, so another Canuck. So the government of Canada will send you a check. And in this article, there's two formats. One could be a check for $2,000 per month, right? And there's something called clawbacks, or it could be a guaranteed $500 every month with a $1,500 clawback. Sounds nice indeed, but it is controversial because who's going to pay for that? Okay, so essentially, people who are proponents of basic income, they do think that if you give money to low income earners, then out of necessity, they will spend that money. So it will actually stimulate the economy. So people who are in favor of it think that the money will stimulate the economy. And right, so the government is going to have to cover the bill. Where will the government get the money from? And there's different lines of thoughts in terms of who will fund the basic income. One is using debt. So the government borrows money to pay everyone a guaranteed basic income. And it depends on how the program is paid for. But according to these proponents, it could add $40 to $80 billion in added economic activity. Excuse me. So if you're just joining, welcome to the show. We're talking about the news. In my show, I go through some news headlines, and today we're talking about a Huffington Post article that talks about basic income and how it could add $80 billion to the Canadian economy. My question to you is, do you believe in a basic income? Do you think that Canadians should fund it? Do you think it will contribute to the economy? Those are the underlying questions. Now, let's talk about the ramifications. So what could happen by giving everybody $2,000 a month? In the long term, the critics suggest that, excuse me, in the long term, critics suggest that businesses through a business tax could get hurt by this program, right? Someone's got to fund this thing. Who's going to pay for it? And, like people who are in favor of it think that, you put money into the program and that money will go back into the economy. Here's the thing, and let me ask you, if you received $2,000 per month guaranteed, would you hold on to that money in savings or would you spend it? Right? And that's a serious question. And, proponents think that if you give people a minimum amount of money, then they're more willing to take risks and maybe start a new business. And that could also really stimulate the economy. Now, Hockey Beast says that he would hold on to it, he or she, pardon me. And that is something that is difficult for us to figure out. So if you're holding on to that money, then that money doesn't go into the economy. So then it's just wasted debt, essentially, right? So let me tell you about the two different formats. So there's one format where every Canadian would receive $2,000 a month, right? And then there's something called a clawback. So a 50-cent clawback for every dollar that you earn. So if you earn money, if you earn at least $2,000 a month, then you actually will not receive the benefit. So you can see how people who are working will not get the basic income, and people who are not working will get $2,000 a month. That's interesting because I would not get any money under that format of it. There is a second format where every single Canadian will get $500 with no clawbacks. So that's a guaranteed $500. So I work, I make money, the government would send me a $500 check. On top of that, there would be, excuse me, I'm terribly sorry. On top of that, there would be a $1,500 clawback. So any additional money, right, up to $1,500, they would take 50 cents away for each dollar. So because I'm working, I probably wouldn't get that $1,500. I would get the minimum $500. If you weren't working in that scenario, you would get $2,000. Now, this is very interesting. So if the government were to give me $500, what would I do with it? Would I save it or would I put it back into the economy? So Hockey Beast says he would hold on to it. Now, why would you hold on to it? So would you hold on to it as a form of savings? That's my question to you. Nonetheless, whatever reason you're holding on to that money, makes total sense. For me, if I got $500 from the government, I don't know what I would do. Like, would I put that money into my retirement fund? Now, I invest my money when I put it into a retirement fund, so in a way that would go into the economy. But it's quite interesting because if the government, so that's great, you would hold on to it for an important situation. So to me, that sounds like you would create an emergency fund, which is the absolute right thing to do. I can tell that you have some financial responsibility, so that is wonderful. But it is quite interesting because if the government gave me an additional $500 and I'm working, I actually do think I would spend it. And the reason I would spend it is because to me, that would be extra disposable income that I didn't have before. I already contribute to my retirement fund, so I would actually want to contribute that money into the economy. I would probably go to more restaurants. Definitely. I would probably buy more local products. I'd probably buy more records. Um, I think I would try to put that money back into the economy, but I could see where critics might not think that would be the case. So it's not so clear cut on whether a basic income program can work for everybody. The number one question is who is going to pay for the program? And usually what that means is the upper income, right? The upper middle class is usually who will be taxed the most to pay for those programs. Maybe even a business tax, and that can cause all sorts of problems. So with that, there comes some disincentives, right? So if you're making $2,000 a month, is there an incentive to work? And is there also a disincentive to earn more, right? So if you're making $2,000 a month, why would I go and work? I could just sit at home, watch television, right? And also, if they're going to tax the upper middle class, then what is my incentive to earn more money and get promotions and work harder? So it's quite interesting. And I know the idea of a basic income is becoming more popular, especially now, because a lot of people are losing their jobs. There's a lot of instability in the job market, and businesses are collapsing around us. So I get why people are starting to think about it. I think there might be some more popularity towards UBI or a basic income. Um, but I think critics will say that right now it's not a good time for expensive social programs because it is very expensive. And when when the budget is tight as it is right now with COVID, our government is spending a lot of money as it is. Can we introduce another social program and put us more into debt and put us further in debt? It's hard to say. Okay, let's go to the second article of the show. So if you're just joining, welcome to Live with Zai, the money guy. Thank you for joining. I'm going to try to entertain you for at least 30 minutes if you're still on. I highly appreciate it. Thank you, Sports Beast and Apple Boyab. If you're viewing, I hope you're having a wonderful Sunday night. I really do. Try to entertain you guys while we're all locked in, trying to survive COVID the best we can. This episode is brought to you by Jones Soda. If you haven't had a Jones soda in a while, go and grab one. They're delicious. They're made with cane sugar. I think they make one of the best cream sodas, by the way. One of the best cream sodas. Hockey Beast, my question to you is, who was your favorite hockey team? Is it the Toronto Maple Leafs? Because you know that's mine. I grew up in Toronto, my man. Unless you're from Van, maybe you're from Montreal. I can't tell. But I'm sure that you are a hockey expert and you should have your own hockey show too. Okay, let's talk about the next article. So this next article comes from CNBC Money. The headline is, I retired at 34 with $3 million. Here are 5 downsides of early retirement that no one tells you. Okay, so this is an interesting article because I think there's a big movement right now called FIRE, and FIRE stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early. Okay, so we got a Montreal Canadien. Bonjour, comment ça va? Carey Price is my favorite goalie ever. Carey Price is an amazing goalie. I can't say out loud that I'm a Montreal Habs fan because I'm a Leafs fan, but who's kidding who? Carey Price is amazing. I think he was Canada's goalie at one point too, right? He's one of the best. So him and Lou, awesome. You guys have an amazing goalie and amazing team this year too. But that's another show. That's another topic. Back to the article at hand. So this gentleman retired at 34 with $3 million. And he talks about the downsides of retirement early. Now, this is quite interesting. So, as I mentioned, everyone is talking about FIRE. So, FIRE stands for Financial Independence, Retire Early. And I think what that means is you work very hard in your early 20s and maybe your early 30s. And it's usually for people who make pretty good income, to be honest, probably six-figure income. And you save all of your money. You save something like 80 to 90% of your money. You live off of 10% and you retire early. And some people are able to do this, right? So some people are like this gentleman here. He retired at 34. And this concept, I find it very interesting. I know a lot of people who are into the FIRE movement where they sacrifice everything so that they can retire. But for me, my question is, why do you want to retire so early? And for a lot of people, because in FIRE it says financial independence, people want the freedom to be able to do whatever they want, to be able to sleep in, not deal with coworkers, not be stuck in meetings, right? Sounds attractive, but there are downsides. And this person talks about 5 of the downsides. So his $3 million that he saves generates about $80,000 per year for him. And as I mentioned, so for him, he didn't like his job. He was in a finance job and he hated it, so he wanted to get out early. So that's why he wanted to retire, because he was miserable. He's happy now because he can wake up whenever, doesn't have to deal with those meetings and the nefarious coworkers. So there's something that he said that really that really stood out for me. And he said that researchers say no matter how much of a boost we get in freedom or money, we eventually revert back to our normal baseline of happiness. Okay, so that's deep. So let me say that again. So researchers say no matter how much of a boost we get in freedom or money, we eventually revert back to our normal baseline of happiness. So that's interesting, and I think that makes sense because you hear about, lottery ticket winners, right? People who win the lottery. A lot of them, they lose, all of their millions in like 1 or 2 years, and they're back to square one, right? And even from my own experience, I've received several pay raises and I've climbed the corporate ladder, and I'll be honest, there's a certain point where a certain amount of money does make you happy because now you can afford paying all of your bills and you can live in comfort. But, gaining an additional 10K or an additional 20K, I don't think it makes you any more happier. And I think the point of this article and what researchers are saying is that even if you end up with $3 million in your 30s, that might not solve for your happiness overall. So retiring earlier might not make you happier. And happiness might be just something separate, right? So you can't treat it as a crutch. That's his point number 4, right? You can't treat it as a crutch for your happiness. So maybe it's true what they say, money doesn't bring you happiness, right? So and so this gentleman, he did retire, and some of the things that he misses is interacting with his coworkers. Also, you could gain a loss of purpose, right? So you've retired, you're 34. What are you going to do with the rest of your life? And there could be a lot of boredom and depression. And if you think about now, we're all stuck inside during COVID. At least I hope you are, and I hope you're staying safe. But it made me think. It's what would you do if you retired? Then you could sleep in. That'd probably be fun for about what a few weeks, maybe a few months. But then after that, you would have to do something, right? So if you're still on, um, would you want to retire early, or would you want to continue to pursue your passions and your purpose? So from the article, let's talk about 5 of the downsides of retiring early. So number 1 was suffering from an identity crisis, and I think I just discussed that, right? So Hockey says that he or she would continue with their job. And that's like, you know what, it's quite interesting that you say that because I don't think most people would. Everyone always talks about wanting to quit their job, right? And like be on a beach forever, but I actually think you have the right idea. I really do. I think it's more important to find a job that you appreciate, right? A job that you like. Hockey Beast is a she. Nice to meet you. You have good taste in sports, and thank you for joining. I highly appreciate it. Um, we're right now, if you are new joining, we're talking about we're in the news and we're talking about retiring early. So the pros and cons. So the 5 downsides that this gentleman talks about is suffering from an identity crisis, right? Number 1, which makes sense. It's like, what are you going to do with the rest of your life? Number 2, you second guess yourself. So this person retired early and wasn't sure if it was the right decision, right? Could he have made more money by staying in the job market? Number 3, people treat you like a misfit and there's a lack of respect. Now that I found really surprising because to me, I really wouldn't care. At least I say I wouldn't care what other people think, but it is quite interesting that we have this attitude towards people when they're not working. And I felt that there's a few times where I was unemployed and people would tell me, well, you know what, you need to get a job, right? And they'd kind of say it in a condescending way. I'm like, well, obviously I'm looking for a job. I want to be working, right? I was doing some training, I was doing some education, and I think it's unfortunate that people would look down on you, especially if you're retired. If this gentleman worked super hard, he made $3 million, he retired by 34, and he lost respect for doing that. And now he has to go and tell people that he's actually a tennis coach so that he can avoid that question altogether. So to me, I don't think that's a drawback that I would take too seriously. I really wouldn't care what people thought. I mean, if you're gaining financial independence, then that's good on you. But the big one is number 4, you aren't much happier, right? And he got a good severance. So they paid him out and he was happy for about a few months after he got that nice severance, but he returned to his baseline happiness, right? And this idea about your work and happiness, I think it is about the journey, right? So I do a sport, I do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I'm a blue belt, and if someone were to tell me, you know what, like you could get your black belt in 1 year, would I want to get it so quickly? I don't think I would. I think I would rather go through the process of earning my belts over time and getting better at the skill of jiu-jitsu. And I think you can say the same with your work, with your life. It's about the journey. It's about the progress that you make. And hello to HR Vault. HR Vault, I have a surprise for you that's coming up into the next segment of my program. And you are joining a live show. This is live with Zai, the money guy. And we are in the news. We were talking about two articles. The first one was about the basic income, Canada's basic income, and whether that's a good idea or not. And the second article that we're talking about right now is a gentleman who retired at 34 with $3 million. And he talks about the 5 downsides of retiring early. And HR Vault, I know you are familiar with I'm going to presume, the engineers who are probably into the FIRE movement, right? So if you don't know what FIRE is, it's financial independence, retire early. What are your thoughts on FIRE? Is it, everyone seems to want to do it. Is it cool? This guy in this article talks about the 5 downsides, and those are, suffering from an identity crisis, second guessing yourself, people actually treating you like a misfit, and the most important one, I think, we've been talking about with, I got the hockey beast on here. You aren't much happier, right? And you revert to your baseline happiness. And I'll read you the quote. So, excuse me. Researchers say no matter how much of a boost we get in freedom or money, we eventually revert back to our normal baseline of happiness, right? And our friend the HR Vault says exactly, they destroy their life for 20 years and don't enjoy life, and then you celebrate it. And then you have 31 years of nothing. And that's interesting. So I think fundamentally, what I see is, I think what's happening is people aren't happy in their current jobs. And that's a big difference. I think you could, instead of retiring early, if you just found a job that you're super passionate about and you actually enjoy going to, you could live a pretty normal life. And maybe you do some FIRE stuff so that you retire at 55 or at 50, right? That's still pretty early. I work a 9 to 5, and every single TikTok video, HR Vault, I'm talking to you, every single TikTok video is escaping the 9 to 5. And I don't know if that is the be all and end all, right? Is that a crutch? I mean, what if you just found a 9 to 5 that you really enjoy? Or what if you just, make money by doing your passion? Um, I find the FIRE movement interesting, and we always want, exactly, is the grass always greener on the other side? I'm not sure. I'm not knocking the FIRE movement, right? So this article, this gentleman retired you know, at 34 with $3 million. Good on him. He made a lot of money. He's able to retire. HR Vault says, I quit to start my own business, and the first few months was heaven. Now that's great. Now you're still working, right? And I think your passion will come from the activity of running a business, from your work, and it won't come from doing nothing, right? So I think, this idea of like retiring on a beach and doing nothing, I think it's a little bit misguided. The only time I will, and then you were miserable, and when you reached out for a contract gig, I was so excited to go back to it. That's what I'm saying. I work a 9 to 5, and I found luckily, I found my dream job, and we're stuck right now in COVID, and we're not at the office. I would rather be in the office. I've never said that in my life. I would rather be in the office right now because my coworkers are there. I used to go into the office maybe 3 out of 5 days, and it was, you get the social interaction. We have human connection. We have a human bond. We're not meant to be useless. Laying around on a beach gets old quickly. Yeah, absolutely. I don't want to knock on the fire, guys. I will tell you this though. I'll tell you guys a story. So, my cousin was dating somebody who was very much into fire, and my cousin's, I think she was in her early 30s, and she wanted to. She was serious about this guy, and he was serious about her, but there was an ultimatum that she had to live his lifestyle of saving 80% of the money they made and only spending 20%. And that's impossible. So we live in Toronto. They couldn't go out. And in that relationship, there was tension. And I didn't understand because my cousin, she works for the government and she's very good at what she does. She's good at climbing the corporate ladder, government ladder, whatever you call that. So if she becomes a senior level government worker in the civil service, I think that's what it's called, she's making more than six figures. She's making high six figures. So that might take her a while. That might take her until she's like late 40s, maybe, right? But why would she stop working now when she can make all of that money in her late 40s and the rest of her life is going to be amazing. Um, all right, Hockey Beast, thank you so much for joining. I do appreciate it. Big shout out to you, and I hope you're able to join next Sunday. I go live every Sunday. I go live at 7 p.m. Go Abs, go! That just stays between you and me, all right? We are filming in front of a live studio audience. Uh, all right, HR Vault. So I have a TikTok shout out, right? Where I give shout outs to TikTok accounts, and I got the HR Vault. HR Vault is right there. Shout out to HR Vault. That is a great account to follow. If you get a chance to follow that account, it can definitely help with your career. Nice talking to you as well. This is a live show every Sunday. It's Sunday night at 7 p.m. I'm going to give out some additional TikTok shout outs. So here are some additional accounts that you should follow, especially when it comes to money. At Jim Chung. So Jim is someone that I know who is quite literally a millionaire. And yeah, when you don't get sassy HR, no, I think you give the goods, and that's how it should be, right? So if you get a chance, follow Jim Chung, JimChuoung. I hope I spelled that right. Another Canadian and a multi-millionaire, and I'm not making that up. So follow Jim Chung at Pepperjack James. That's my next TikTok shout out. Pepperjack James. This person is a thrifter, goes to Value Village, turns items around. Amazing. Makes money hustling. So kudos to you, Pepperjack James. At Coupon Cutie Canada. At Coupon Cutie Canada. Another great account to follow. She is able to find coupons out of thin air. And some of her videos that I've seen, she actually makes money by shopping because the coupon program that she finds actually gives you surplus, whether it's through points or some type of discount. I don't know how she does it, but I would follow that account. You never know, you might find a good few saving tips. At Coupon Cutie Canada. The HR Vault, I mentioned the HR Vault previously, another great account to follow. So give the HR Vault a follow. Talks about the goods, what's happening in the HR space, how to progress in your career. Just gives up the straight goods. And sometimes, like people will obviously argue with the HR Vault, but it makes for good discussion. And another account is at Ecomera, Ecomera. She is another entrepreneur that I follow. She is, I think, some sort of like drop shipping genius. She has a great account, so go and follow her if you're into that. She's gone viral a couple times, I think for the wrong reason, which is unfortunate. I find sometimes I go viral for the wrong reason as well. I'd rather have a core group of finance enthusiasts who follow me than just some randoms, to be honest. But at Eco Mara. Okay, so let's go to the next segment of the show, and this is called the Teachable Moment. So today's Teachable Moment is by another TikTok account, Fiddish Nat. So that's at, whoa, the audience is going wild here. I'm sorry. So that is at Fitish Nat. Okay, that's a strange name. So it's Fitishnat, Fiddish Nat. And I watched her TikTok. So she had a video where, excuse me. So she had a video. So she is a property manager. She's into real estate. And she made this TikTok video where she talks about this trend on TikTok where people are encouraged, excuse me, it's the Jones Soda talking here, where people are encouraged to invest their money into a multi-family home or an apartment complex, right? And I think people have good intentions. So the idea is you buy a multi-family unit residence and you move into one of them, maybe in the basement, and you rent out the others. And by doing so, you pay your mortgage on the property. Eventually, you'll own the property and you have rent coming in, right? So you buy a house, you live in one of the rooms, you rent the other rooms, takes care of the mortgage, you're a millionaire. She made a video, so at Finish Nat challenged this idea, and she warned people. She warned people that renting to pay the mortgage might sound great, but finding ideal renters is quite difficult. I think she makes a good point. And she also mentioned to consider what is required in evicting a person, right? So eviction means that person can't pay the rent for whatever reason or decides not to pay the rent, and you need to kick them out of the unit. And I don't know much about evictions, but well, I do a little bit. There's one point where I almost got evicted, and but according to her, you have to go to court. There are attorney fees. The process could take 4 to 5 months, and you'll be without rent for 4 to 5 months. And then someone left a comment, which really I think, struck a chord with me. Imagine you would have to evict a tenant who had a 2-year-old daughter, right? So, that's pretty deep. So if say you're a landlord, especially if you're in your 20s, if you're a landlord and you're renting out 4 units in your house and you have like a single mom who has a kid, she can't pay her rent, you are responsible for evicting that person. Otherwise, you have no income coming in. And that could take an emotional toll. There's a lot of responsibility that comes with that. So her TikTok video, it blew up, and I think her piece of advice was be careful going into it. Now, there was a lot of reaction to the video. Some people thought that she was being discouraging. Some people who are property experts have hundreds of rental tenants and have no problems with them, right? But I think she makes a good point because with everything, there is some type of risk, and you should at least be able to identify what the risk is. And it doesn't mean that you have to not invest out of fear or invest out of bravado, but it means you just have to understand what the risks are, what the downsides are, and if you are prepared for those downsides and for those risks. And I think you can't deny that, getting into real estate comes with a lot of work, a lot of risk. People do it, they become millionaires, and you can, but it's not something that you can just walk into without considering any of those factors. So that is today's teachable moment. The last part of the course, I do like to mention that I myself have a course that you can purchase. It is in my bio. You'll find a link. It is called How to Budget Through Better Habits. And the course is a fundamental, personal budgeting finance course. But for me, I felt that there was something missing in the market, right? So even on TikTok, usually you'll find where, people are trying to learn how to invest their money and you never know where to start. It's overwhelming, it can be intimidating. So what I did was on Udemy, I took 3 months and I created a very basic program to help change your habits and make you better with money, make you better with savings so that you can learn the fundamentals first and then invest your money. Okay, so it's a cheap course. The link is in my bio. Feel free to check it out. And the next part of the program is Q&A. So I think we've gone through most of the questions. If you have any questions, please do leave a question. Welcome to the show. This is Zai, the Money Guy. Thank you so much for joining. I hope you're having a wonderful Sunday night. So I just want to talk about something else really quickly. So, a common question that I hear is, if I was in my 20s and I had $1,000, then what would I do with that $1,000, or what stock would I put it in? I made a video about this, and I think if you're in your 20s and you're wondering what stock to purchase with $1,000, I don't mean this in a condescending way. I just don't think that you are ready to invest in an individual stock, because most professional or seasoned investors would not recommend that advice. I myself would not say, you know what, take that $1,000 and put it in Tesla. It's not a good investment. So I think with $1,000, and I'm going to make a video series on this, I think there are much better options for you. For me personally, this is what I would suggest. With that $1,000, I would say first, invest in yourself. Really find a good course, do the research, right? And with $1,000, you can buy a really good course, right? Or you can spend $50 and buy like a course that I have. Or you could find a course that maybe comes with a really good mentor, like a Ramit Sethi, right? Or even Jim Chung, I mentioned him before. He has a course for $1,000 that is quite advanced. I'm not talking about these scam courses, by the way, where they promise you $100,000 in a week. That's not real. It's not real. But there are authentic courses that can develop your skills in anything, especially online. So Jim Chung, Ramit Sethi. I do UX design as a career actually, and I took a program called Learn UI. So you could take a course like that. So, and the value of taking a course like that is you could actually develop a practical career skill, right? So I would take that $1,000 and invest in yourself so that all of a sudden at work, you've increased your career, or you've increased a skill that will help with your career, right? So now you can take your salary from, let's say, 50K to all of a sudden 60 or 75K. So the return on that is huge. I would rather do that with $1,000 than pick any single stock. Another thing that you could do is you could create your own business. So for $1,000, you could start your own business, especially with TikTok. There's so many businesses that people literally teach you how to start a business in 60 seconds. You could do drop shipping, you could do print on demand, anything, Shopify stores. A lot of those videos are legitimate, avoid the scams, right? But with $1,000, I would put myself through my own personal MBA program, right? I would try to learn how to create a store. I would take $1,000. Some of that would be for creating the store. Some of that would be maybe for product, maybe purchasing product. And then some of that money would be for advertising. So with $1,000, you could do so much. And if you lose it all, you lose it all. It's $1,000. But the upside is you can develop all of those skills and then you can apply them later on. Maybe, down the line, you'll have a really good product idea, or at least you'll know how to build a store and you'll know how to market. And all of a sudden, now you understand how to do Facebook marketing or, or Google AdWords, right? So $1,000, I think you could do your own personal MBA. I would do that over buying an individual stock. Another thing you could do with $1,000 is put it into a high interest savings account and just have it as an emergency fund. Have it gain some interest and have it there for a rainy day. From a responsibility standpoint, it's probably the best thing to do. Another thing you could do with $1,000 is you could purchase a whole bunch of books, right, on personal finance, on on investing. If you do want to learn how to invest in the market with $1,000, then buy the investing course and learn how to do that. But spend the time, like spend a good 3 to 6 months to a year on it. And by the time you do that, then you'll be ready to buy your first stock. Or with $1,000, maybe you put it down towards a new car or a down payment on a home or into even like your RRSP, for example. Maybe it's through a mutual fund. If you have bad credit, then you can also put $1,000 into a prepaid credit card and rebuild your credit until it's perfect. And last but not least, if you save up $1,000 instead of actually putting it into a stock, I'm going to recommend something that's probably contrary to what most people would recommend, but I would say spend that money on something that you enjoy, on a luxury. You've saved that money, you've earned it, so get in the habit of saving money to put towards your expenses. That's much better than using a credit card and living off of debt. I had one of the best trips I ever took was it was a domestic trip. It was to Chicago from Toronto, and I had saved up a few grand. So that trip was fully funded. And by that I mean I had the money, I saved it up. It was separate from my regular, bills and regular grocery money. And it was dedicated just for Chicago, and it makes the trip so much better because then you're not thinking about money. You're not thinking about, oh, how much can I put on my credit card or what is this bill going to cost? You just take that $2,000 or whatever, or the $1,000, you spend it. You spend it. In that case, I spent it on Chicago as the best trip. So I'm going to make a video series on 10 ways that you can spend $1,000 instead of putting it into the market straight away on an individual stock. Because if you're in your 20s, I think there are better ways to use $1,000. All right, back to the live studio audience. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That is all for tonight. So for those of you who did join, I do want to say a big thank you for joining tonight. This is I, the Money Guy, where we talk about money. Big shout out to HR Vault and the Hockey Beast for joining. Thank you so much. I hope everyone is having a safe and healthy Sunday night. Catch me next time. I go live every Sunday at 7 p.m. This is I, the Money Guy. Good night. Have a wonderful night.